The night was quiet in the luxurious mansion on the hills, where silence often echoed louder than words. The marble floors gleamed beneath the dim lights, and the chandeliers above sparkled like frozen stars. Yet inside this grand home, loneliness sat heavy in every corner. Mr. Armand Sheik, a self-made millionaire, leaned back in his leather chair inside his study, a glass of untouched whiskey beside him. His eyes, sharp and calculating in the business world, looked unusually distant tonight. Despite his wealth, despite the empire he had built from scratch, his heart remained a hollow room where no laughter echoed, no warmth resided. Money had bought him everything, everything but peace. It was close to midnight when the sound of a faint cry pierced through the silence. At first, Armand thought he had imagined it. He rubbed his temples and leaned closer to the window, listening. There it was again, the sound of a baby crying. He frowned, confused, and rose to his feet. The cries grew louder as he approached the door. When he finally opened it, his entire world shifted in a way he never expected. There, on the front steps of his grand mansion, lay a small basket covered with a thin blanket. Inside, a baby no more than a few months old cried softly, its tiny fists reaching out as though begging for comfort. Armand froze. He had faced boardroom battles, ruthless competitors, even financial crises, but never something like this, a baby at his door. For a long moment he simply stared. His logical mind scrambled for explanations. Who could have left a child here? Why at his home? What was he supposed to do? But the longer he looked, the weaker his carefully built walls became. Slowly, almost cautiously, he bent down and picked up the infant. The baby's warmth seeped into his arms instantly, a fragile little heartbeat pressing against his chest. Armand, who had lived years surrounded by coldness and power, suddenly felt something stir inside him. Just then, soft footsteps echoed from behind. It was Meher, his maid, the quiet woman who had been working in his mansion for years. She was simple, humble, and rarely spoke unless spoken to. Her eyes widened as she saw the child in his arms. "Sir, a baby," she whispered, covering her mouth in shock. "Yes," Armand muttered, his voice unsteady, his usual commanding tone gone. "Someone left it here. At my door?" Meher stepped closer, her gaze softening instantly at the sight of the child. She reached out, and without thinking, Armand allowed her to touch the baby's tiny hand. The child immediately stopped crying, staring up at Meher with wide, trusting eyes. A strange silence settled over the three of them, a silence heavy with questions but also filled with something unspoken. Armand cleared his throat, desperate to regain control of the moment. "Call the police. We need to report this." But Meher hesitated. She looked up at him with eyes that seemed to hold more emotion than usual. "Sir, perhaps whoever left this baby had no other choice. The way it was left here, it feels like desperation, not abandonment. Maybe this baby was meant to be here." Her words struck him in a way he didn't expect. He shook his head. "Meant to be here? Don't be ridiculous. I can't take care of a baby. My life doesn't allow for it. I have no family for a reason." His tone was cold, but inside he was trembling. Because for the first time in years he wasn't sure of himself. The night dragged on. The police were informed, but no one came forward to claim the baby. Days turned into weeks, and somehow the child remained in his home. At first, Armand kept telling himself it was temporary. He would find an orphanage or social services would step in, but every time he tried to make that call, something stopped him. Something about the way the baby clung to his finger, the way it laughed when Meher sang lullabies, the way silence in the mansion was broken by tiny coos instead of loneliness. It unsettled him, but it also made him feel alive in a way money never had. For the first time in years, Armand stayed home more often. He found himself watching Meher feed the baby, watching her smile in ways he had never noticed before. She was gentle, patient, and carried a kind of strength that humbled him. And slowly, he began to realize that she was more than just his maid. She was the bridge between him and this new, unexpected life that had entered his home. One night, as the baby slept peacefully in a cradle Meher had arranged, Armand sat in the study again. This time, he wasn't staring at contracts or bank statements. He was staring at the baby's tiny blanket folded neatly on the table. He whispered to himself, "Why me? Why here? Why now?" For the first time in years, he felt tears sting his eyes. Meher entered quietly, carrying warm milk for the baby. She saw him, shoulders heavy, eyes moist, and something inside her softened. She placed the tray down and said gently, "Maybe because you needed someone to remind you that life is more than numbers, sir. Maybe this baby came to heal what you didn't even know was broken. Armin looked at her, truly looked at her, for the first time. And in her eyes, he saw truth. He saw kindness that had survived hardship, resilience that had endured silence, and a heart that carried more wealth than his millions ever could. And somewhere deep inside, he knew this baby wasn't just an accident at his doorstep. It was a chance at redemption, a chance at family, a chance to rediscover the man he had lost in his pursuit of power. As the chapter of his old life began to close, a new one, fragile, uncertain, but full of promise, had just begun.